Sathya Sai Speaks, Volume 5, Chapter 35. The First Step. Man is endowed with memory as well as the faculty to forget. Both these are useful skills. Perhaps the power to forget is even more important, for otherwise man will have to lament over the loss of millions of parents and kinsmen he had in millions of previous births. Man will remember and resent the many insults and injuries he has suffered in this birth. Luckily, he forgets all that. He remembers only those things that have impressed him as significant or crucial, namely, the date of his marriage, the names of those who have to pay him money, etc. The tragedy is he has forgotten the most significant and crucial thing about his earthly career. The key to happiness and liberation, his real name and identity. Man cannot afford to forget who he is and for what purpose he has come. He must know the answer to the questions. Kastvam koham. As Shankara says, who are you? Who am I? Where am I going? Where did I come from? What is the nature and purpose of all this movement and change? Is there any stable base, any goal or aim, direction or director? These questions cannot be brushed aside from the mind of man. They come to him and harass him when he is alone with something grand and awe-inspiring in nature, or with some incident terrible and shocking in his own experience. It is not wise to forego these precious moments and turn once again to the humdrum of life, without pursuing the inquiry to which one is prompted. The disciple must have the yearning, but man forgets, he ignores. He mistakes the unreal to be the real. He is deceived by appearance, he does not peer behind the veil. He misleads himself and others. He takes sunna as venna, slaked lime as butter, since both are white. But what a difference in quality and effect! The baby sucks its thumb and derives immense satisfaction and joy therefrom. We know that it has no taste, no sweetness, but the baby weeps when the thumb is pulled out. The sweetness in the thumb was imposed on it by the baby itself. So too the happiness that one derives from the world is not the nature of the world. It is subjective. It is only the projection upon the world of the happiness the Atma, the Self, is capable of deriving, of which it is the source and goal. The baby imagines the thumb to be an external object which is providing it with pleasure, but it is only itself. The Guru warns and wakens. He reveals the truth and encourages you to progress towards it. Unless you have the yearning, the questioning heart, the seeking intelligence, he cannot do much. The hungry can be fed. He who has no hunger will discard food as infliction. The Guru is a gardener who will tend the plant, but the sapling must have sprouted before he can take charge. He does not add anything new to the plant, he only helps it to grow, according to its own destiny, quicker perhaps, more fully perhaps, but not against its inner nature. He removes poverty by pointing to the treasure that lies buried in the very habitation of man. He advises the method of recovering it, the vigilance needed to use it to the best advantage, etc. Money has a fascinating influence. There was a man once who was afflicted with extreme miserliness. He never parted with cash on any pretext. But when his father died, he had to get his scalp shaved in order to satisfy the requirements of the Shastras, scriptures, and public opinion. The barber demanded an impossible sum. The miser higgled quite a lot and the fellow's rate was brought down. to 1 paisa. The miser did not clinch the bargain at that price. He bargained still and asked that he should shave 2 heads for 1 paisa. The barber agreed, for he guessed that since the dead man had only one son, there was no second candidate for the razor. But the miser, after the barber had finished with him, called out his wife and insisted that she too must be shaved before payment could be made. Money has such a fascinating influence on some foolish individuals. One has to practice detachment at every step, or else greed and miserliness will overpower the finer natures of man. That nature is divine because God is the very substance of which man is but a name and form. To realize it, one has to possess and develop the discrimination between the unchanging and the changing, the permanent and the temporary. Sadhana chatushtaya nitya nitya viveka. That is, knowing that the universe is constantly subject to change and modification, and that Brahman alone is unmodified. Iha amutra. Phalabhoga viraga, detachment from the pleasures of this world, as well as the pleasures obtainable in heaven after attaining the conviction that they are evanescent and fraught with grief. Samadhamadi, shatka samapti, attaining the 6 desirable qualifications, the control of external and internal senses, and sensory promptings, fortitude in the midst of grief and pain, of joy and victory. Uparati, withdrawal from all activity that brings about consequences that bind. Shraddha, firm faith in the teacher and the text that he expounds. Samhadhanam, even contemplation on the basic Brahman, without being disturbed by other waves of thought. Though milk is under formation throughout the body of the cow, you have to resort to the 4 teats in order to get it. So also, these 4 sadhanas or teats have to be pressed into service if spiritual knowledge is to be gained. Reform your habits to win the Lord's grace. The world is unreal in the sense that a dream is unreal. You sleep in the veranda of the mandir, temple here, and you dream you are in Kashi, bathing in the Ganga. You feel the cool comfort, the holy satisfaction. It is very real at the time, but when did you actually go, and how did you transport yourself? The jnani, liberated person, from his more genuine awareness asks the same question about the experiences of your waking state. Here I must tell you one thing. Which dreams are real? Dreams relating to God are real. You see me in the dream. I allow you to do namaskaram, prostration. I bless you. I grant grace. That is true. That is due to my will and your sadhana, spiritual practice. If the Lord or your Guru appears in dream, it must be the result of sankalpa, his will, not due to any of the other reasons which causes dreams. It can never happen as a result of your wish. Above all, try to win grace by reforming your habits, reducing your desires, and refining your higher nature. One step makes the next one easier. That is the excellence of the spiritual journey. At each step, your strength and confidence increases, and you get bigger and bigger installments of grace. There was a wicked man once who heard quite by chance a religious discourse which affected him much. He went to a great sage and offered himself as his disciple. He asked him how he spent his days. The reply was, I gamble by day and break into houses for theft at night. I revel in falsehood, both day and night. The sage said, I shall accept you as my disciple, provided you give up one of these 3. You must make some sacrifice to deserve this favor." The man pondered for some little time. "I cannot give up gambling. I find it so exciting. I cannot give up housebreaking, for that is the only means of earning livelihood that I know. Well, I shall give up telling lies." So he gave word that he will no longer utter lies and was accepted. The sage was glad that he had fallen into the trap. Now he could not escape. Thief appointed minister for speaking truth. That night the man decided to break into the palace itself. He dodged the guards and climbed up to the terrace and was stealthily creeping along the wall on the edge when someone accosted him with the question, "Who goes there?" He spoke the truth. "I am a thief. Who are you?" The man who accosted him was the king himself. He had come out on the terrace, for the breeze was pleasant there. He replied, "I am also thief." So they decided on joint efforts, dividing the spoils half and half. The thief proposed that they break into the palace treasury. The new companion said he knew where the keys were. So he escaped into the darkness and brought the keys. They both got into the treasury and divided the loot half and half. But they found there 3 big diamonds, big and beautiful. The king took one, the thief another, and the third was left where it was, with mutual consent, for, as the thief said, "Let the unfortunate king who has lost his all have at least this one gem as a consolation." Then they parted, but not before the thief replied to a question from the king. "Where do you live?" The thief, who had given up lying, had to give his correct address, and he did. The next morning, news spread that the treasury had been burgled, and the king deputed his chief minister to proceed to the treasury and take stock. He went and saw the things lying helter-skelter amidst opened boxes and safes. He found one big fine diamond which had evidently escaped the eyes of the miscreants. He pocketed the precious gem, and after a few minutes spent there, he came to the royal presence and described the scene and the loss. The king asked that the thieves known to the police be brought before him, including one whose address he himself gave. They were brought, but the king interrogated the one whom he had indicated specially. He revealed that he and another who had already broken into the palace had shared the loot half and half from the treasury the previous night. The king asked him about the diamonds. He said that one of the 3 was left behind. They took only one each. He was pleased to speak the truth. The king knew that the minister must have appropriated the third, and so he ordered a search of the minister in open court. Needless to say, it was retrieved from his pocket, and the minister was revealed as an unreliable fellow. The king, thereupon, dismissed him on the spot and appointed the thief as the minister instead. The guru should guide the disciple. Now that he was minister, the thief gave up stealing, for there was enough and more so far as means of livelihood was concerned. There was no time to gamble either. He became famous as an upright, efficient minister. The guru was drawn by stories of his efficiency to visit the city, and when the minister saw him, he fell at his feet in gratitude for the way in which he had reformed him. That is how the first step works. It makes further steps possible with much less effort. The guru must persuade you to take that first step by describing the shame of standing still, or going back and pointing out the pleasure of the journey and the magnificence of the role. Not all gurus now enjoying that status are capable of this. The disciples rule them and guide them rather than they are guiding the disciples. There was a shepherd boy who was elevated to the position of a guru. he uttered two sounds, always the two, Thur Thur and Thak Thak Thak. The disciples discovered meanings in those sounds and saved the reputation of the Guru. They said that the Guru was declaring that a life spent in material pursuits is just Thur, and clays spent in vain pastimes without seva, service of the Lord, are to be condemned as Tak Tak Tak. If the Guru bends and yields to the whims and fancies of the disciples, and is afraid to lose their loyalty or is anxious to win it, then he is the servant of the disciple, not his master. The disciple must learn to follow the commands of the Guru. That is the best way to benefit by his wisdom. I command you on this Guru Purnima to do Gita Sadhana. That is enough to grant you liberation. Many people ask me, Swami, give me a namam, name of God, which I can repeat. Take any namam you like, any name which appeals to you. All his names are equally sweet. It is only a crooked intellect that will discover differences between one name and another. There is an American lady here who is keen on liberation. The nationality does not matter at all. All belong to the state of God. Prashanti Nilayam, July 14th, 1965. Perfect freedom is not given to any man on earth. Lesser the number of wants, the greater is the freedom. Hence, perfect freedom is absolute desirelessness. Sri Sathya Sai Baba.